attacks in Kosovo. We'll see you in half an hour.
Crisis in Kosovo, the first wave of bombs and missiles.
Kosovo's crisis now is full-blown, and if we do not act, clearly it will get even worse.
In depth tonight, the man who chose war, not peace. Who is he? What does he want? And America's secret weapon in combat for the first time. A dangerous mission. Is peace in Kosovo worth American lives?
Crisis in Kosovo. From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is a special edition of NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. It is war tonight. War against Serbian President Milosevic and his military is underway. This evening, President Clinton will speak to the country from the Oval Office. The first wave of attacks involved missile and bomb strikes against a wide array of targets in Kosovo, in and around Belgrade, which is the capital of the former Yugoslavia. This officially is a NATO operation, but the United States is taking the lead on every front, and this is just the beginning of what is expected to be a difficult and dangerous operation. We'll begin our special coverage with NBC's Ron Allen, who's in Belgrade tonight. Ron?
Tonight, NATO cruise missiles rocked Yugoslavia. The government reporting at least 20 targets hit in the first hour alone. Military airports, power plants, and radar installations. NATO punishing the Yugoslav army for its bloody offensive in Kosovo and its commander-in-chief, President Slobodan Milosevic. Today, Milosevic put his country on a war footing, declaring the first state of emergency since World War II, interrupting television programs to rally his citizens to defend the nation. What's at stake, he proclaims, is the freedom of the entire country. Across the country, panic buying in the cities. Bread rationing at this bakery, only 4 loaves per customer. Long lines for gasoline. Merchants locking their shops and hunkering down. The hardline government silencing any critics, shutting down an independent radio station, blocking reports by American media. The government filling the airwaves with patriotic images glorifying the army. NATO will need thousands of coffins to take their dead from here, he says. But tonight, it's President Milosevic and his army finally paying the price for their year-long campaign against the people of Kosovo. Tom?
Ron, we had a report that there were some journalists rounded up. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, Tom, we understand about 20 journalists who were trying to photograph the explosions that we could see here in Belgrade from a roof of a nearby hotel have been detained, not long ago. We expect them to be released, and we think some of them may have been roughed up a little bit based on what we can tell from a distance. That kind of thing has been happening all day. It's been very difficult to work here.
And have the people of Belgrade been able to get an idea of just how serious this attack against them is at this point?
I think so, Tom. We've heard air raid sirens again, and earlier we felt several powerful explosions, buzz that we could feel not far from the center of the city. There have been flashes of light and streaks of light on the horizon all night, emergency vehicles racing around the city. And further south in Kosovo, more massive explosions, the attack continuing, and a total electrical failure there, a blackout amongst the smoke and flames.
Any more signs of Milosevic on official television tonight?
No, Tom, no official response from Milosevic has not been seen since the attack began, and state-controlled TV seems to be shrugging this all off. They're very matter-of-fact in their reporting, listing cities hit so far, 7, facilities destroyed, and broadcasting a lot of patriotic programming while urging people to head to shelters.
All right, thank you very much. Ron Allen tonight in Belgrade at his post. Officially, this NATO action is called Operation Allied Force, but the United States is the political and military engine powering the attack. And at the Pentagon tonight, NBC's Jim Miklashevsky, at the White House, David Bloom. Jim, let's go to the Pentagon and find out from you what's the latest there.
Tom, as we speak, Operation Allied Force continues tonight. Military officials report that in several air-to-air dogfights, NATO warplanes shot down at least 3 enemy MiGs. And so far, all NATO aircraft are reported safe. American B-52s armed with cruise missiles take off from England to lead the attack, along with NATO warplanes from Italy. And for the first time in combat, B-2 stealth bombers, dropping 2,000-pound satellite-guided bunker buster bombs. It's estimated up to 60 cruise missiles were launched from U.S. Navy ships and B-52s.
We are attacking the military infrastructure that President Milosevic and his forces are using to repress and kill innocent people.
Military sources report the first cruise missile hit was an underground bunker north of Kosovo, headquarters for Serb air defenses. Targets throughout Kosovo and all of Yugoslavia are taking a pounding, including some top-level military command sites and communications facilities around Belgrade, critical to President Slobodan Milosevic. The first bombing wave is expected to last 48 hours. If Milosevic still does not back down, fighter bombers will step up attacks against Serb troops, taking out tanks and artillery one by one.
The hope is that then the military of Serbia will go to Milosevic and say, we cannot stand any more of this.
So far, no NATO planes have been shot down. But given the Serbs' formidable air defenses, it's the Pentagon's worst fear.
There's no such thing as a risk-free military operation.
Norman Schwarzkopf led the U.S. war against Iraq. He warns this time will be tougher.
You're going up against a force that's had a lot of combat experience, and they're very, very well equipped.
But at the same time, NATO forces are pulling their punches, not hitting as many targets as they could, as hard as they could, for fear of too many casualties on the ground. One senior military official here complains tonight, it's like fighting with one hand tied behind our backs. Tom?
NBC's Jim Miklashevsky at the Pentagon tonight. President Clinton speaks to the nation tonight, but as soon as the airstrikes were confirmed today, he did go public at the White House with a short, tough statement on why he believes this is necessary. And NBC's David Bloom is at the White House now. David?
Tom, tonight the president's foreign policy advisors say they believe Slobodan Milosevic will try to ride out this first wave of NATO strikes. But a senior U.S. official tells NBC News the bombing raids will continue, quote, indefinitely until Milosevic either sues for peace or pulls Serb forces out of Kosovo. Later tonight, when he addresses the nation, President Clinton plans to tell the American people, quote, the big wars in European history began in the Balkans as small wars the world did not care enough to prevent. The time to act in Kosovo, the president declared today, is now, citing 3 U.S. objectives: demonstrate NATO's resolve, deter further Serb attacks against civilians, and seriously damage Serbia's military capabilities.
I have concluded that the dangers of acting now are clearly outweighed by the risks of failing to act. The risks that many more innocent people will die or be driven from their homes by the tens of thousands. The risks that the conflict will involve and destabilize neighboring nations.
But from Serbia's ally, Russia's Boris Yeltsin, outrage. After a contentious 45-minute phone call today with President Clinton, Yeltsin went on Russian television, ordered his nation to pull out of its partnership with NATO, threatened other unspecified actions, and demanded an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council. And UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, while saying this may be a legitimate use of force, questioned NATO's decision not to seek Security Council approval.
Under the Charter, the Security Council has primary responsibility for maintaining international peace and security. Therefore, the Council should be involved in any decision to resort to force. Thank you.
Of course, as a practical matter, Russia would have merely vetoed any such Security Council resolution. As to what happens if the bombing strikes fail, the president's advisors insist they won't. They maintain that Serb forces will be so badly damaged and demoralized by the strikes that Milosevic will have no choice but to pull back. Tom?
Thank you very much, David Bloom at the White House tonight. Secretary of State Madeleine Albright has been at the forefront of the diplomatic effort to get Serbia and its leader Milosevic to stop the killing. She joins us now from Washington. Let's say it goes exactly as planned, Madam Secretary, and that in fact Milosevic decides to sue for peace. That means that you're going to have a NATO ground force in there, including American troops, for some time to keep that peace. Is the president prepared to tell the American people tonight just how long we may have to be militarily committed in Kosovo?
Well, first of all, the president has made clear, and I'm sure he will repeat this, is that the only way that we would have a ground force in there would be to implement a peace in a way where the environment is friendly and permissive. As we look at how long that might be, and I must say, Tom, we seem to be a long way from that as one listens to what is going on today, and that is that it's very important that these forces, that we are not talking about ground forces in anything but a permissive environment.
But if the airstrikes don't work, if Milosevic does not buckle, isn't there the possibility that you'll have to engage in some kind of ground action?
No, we have no plans to have American ground forces in a non-permissive environment. And we think that what the objectives here are to deter Milosevic from going forward with these offensive actions against the people of Kosovo, and then to damage his capability to inflict further damage on them. We hope very much that he will understand that the best course for him and the Serb people is to go for to embrace this peace agreement that we've been talking about.
Do you worry that the Russians may get involved on the side of Milosevic?
Well, the Russians, I think, are obviously, as you explained, very irritated about the bombing, but they have been frustrated with Milosevic. They have been very much a part of the contact group and the political discussions that we've had. And I think that they have understood the importance of not having these kinds of offensive actions against the people of Kosovo. They do not agree with the actions that we have taken militarily.
Madam Secretary, thank you very much for being with us on what I know is a busy evening for you.
Thank you.
We'll have more on the crisis in Kosovo when we come back. NBC News in depth. Who is this man, the Serbian president, Slobodan Milosevic, in the crosshairs tonight?
He does almost anything in order to stay in power, and he knows the psychology of his people very well and is able to exploit that.
Defying NATO, what really drives the Serbian dictator?
Niko destabilizovati Srbiju, a da vam kažem pravo.
If it's real chicken your dog wants, it's Prime you want. Because high-quality chicken is the primary ingredient in Pedigree Prime. Pedigree Prime. Dry dog food has finally reached its prime.
Okay, item 7. Who requested separating seats?
We did. It falls under the personal space clause.
I have no problem with that.
Me neither.
Good.
Well, other than tray table custody, I think we may have ourselves a minivan.
Not so fast, folks. I believe you know my client.
Timmy?
The all-new 7-passenger, something for everyone Honda Odyssey. It's one big happy minivan.
When it comes to your health, never compromise, even when choosing a laxative. You need one that's strong enough to work overnight, but also gentle. Try doctor-recommended Dulcolax. Its comfort coating even protects your stomach. Get strong, get gentle, get doctor-recommended Dulcolax.
Joseph.
Yes, Papa.
There is an enemy that threatens all weeds. It is the spray.
So, we'll bribe it.
The spray does not respond to bribes.
What's the world coming to?
Roundup. No root, no weed, no problem.
Here they come.
Surprise! I made your old favorite pepperoni.
Oh. I can't eat that now.
Oh. This can't be Charlie.
I didn't take my Pepsi. I gotta wait.
Then we all wait.
Take my Tagamet. You could eat now.
Tagamet introduces a better way to avoid heartburn. Not before, not after, now. Now you can take Tagamet right when you're going to eat and still prevent heartburn.
Same old Charlie.
With Tagamet, you can eat like a kid again.
Dateline Wednesday, trapped in a submerged car, stuck inside a burning apartment, caught in a riptide. These things happen, but we'll show you how to get out alive. That's Dateline tonight. Then on Friday, Sharon claims she was set up by the government, accused of crimes she knew nothing about. Can she put her life back together and find justice? Dateline Friday.
NBC News in depth tonight. Inside the mind of Serbia's dictator, the man who has brought NATO to war. The attack tonight is aimed in part at breaking Slobodan Milosevic's grip on power, also to bring him to the peace table. He's held that power as president of Serbia since 1989. Before that, he was a gas company executive and a bank director. He's married and he has 2 children. In depth tonight, NBC's Andrea Mitchell on the man the United States says is responsible for this crisis in Kosovo.
The CIA calls him the Saddam Hussein of the Balkans, the 57-year-old president of Yugoslavia.
President Slobodan Milosevic.
Those who know him say he's cunning, shrewd, alternately brutal and deceptively charming. Not to be trusted, they say, especially when he promises peace.
We'll do our best to support every peaceful solution.
U.S. officials say he is not a madman, but deeply disturbed psychologically. Both his mother and father committed suicide. The son, observers say, is prone to violent mood swings and foul language when negotiating. At the same time, they say, he loves luxury, lives in a palace filled with Rembrandt paintings and priceless Baroque furniture.
He enjoys himself, he likes good food, and he's a heavy drinker.
And even after negotiating all night, he is still a natty dresser. His greatest passion, his diehard communist wife, Mira, fiercely ideological and also his most trusted political operative. In fact, some say she all but runs the country, helped transform her husband from a Communist Party hack to a nationalist tyrant. But critics say, unlike Saddam and other dictators with regional ambitions, Milosevic has no vision for his country beyond ethnic cleansing and clinging to power.
His priority is getting power, holding on to power. He's very tactical.
In fact, the U.S. blames him for starting 3 wars in Croatia, Bosnia, and now Kosovo.
But President Milosevic, who over the past decade started the terrible wars against Croatia and Bosnia, has again chosen aggression over peace.
His sole motivation, those who know him say, a determination to stir up his people's anger against all outsiders.
A person that I think manifests power, wants to retain power at all cost.
And it has worked. In his country, he is revered for standing up to the West. Elsewhere in the world, he's called the Butcher of the Balkans, responsible for the deaths of 250,000 of his countrymen. Officials say 2.5 times more than the number of Iraqis killed by Saddam. The real fear, U.S. officials say, is that Milosevic might want a prolonged war in order to consolidate power. One critic says, quote, he is both the arsonist and the fireman. They say creating a crisis, then resolving it, so he is the hero, no matter how much suffering he causes. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Washington.
Tonight, as the bombs fall, the U.S. military believes that Milosevic is hiding out in a deep Soviet-style underground bunker somewhere near Belgrade. We'll have the other news of the day when we come back, and the fact.
And later on the century, Memphis dreams. A young truck driver gyrates and changes the culture.
He was the prettiest thing I'd ever seen in my life. He was just gorgeous.
I may not get there with you. And Martin Luther King's final days in the struggle for change.
The sign, it didn't say peace, it didn't say freedom, it didn't say justice. It said, I am a man.
In no man's land, America goes to war to end all war.
Heroism was dead from that moment, because it didn't help you to survive whether you were heroic or not.
And ends its longest war by abandoning its friends.
When the helicopter left the roof of the embassy, I was extremely, extremely upset that if I'd tried to talk, I would have cried.
In coming apart, America is on the brink of collapse, but finds someone to believe in.
This nation is asking for action, and action now.
And the Cold War comes to Hollywood.
Are you a member of the Communist Party?
I have replied to that. You have no right to ask me that.
The witness is through. Stand away.
You might say with bravado, oh, they're not going to do anything to us. But you weren't sure.
And looked down and suddenly realized there were lots of people. And they were even coming over the walls.
The evolution of revolution. What was it that made these men and women so angry?
That was the first time I heard death to America, death to the hostages.
The story of how Hitler got there and the ultimate power of the bomb on Thursday. I hope you'll join us. I'm Peter Jennings. Good night.